Caroline, if we still have some time left, I would like to talk about the mechanics of filmmaking just a little bit. You know, you being the hands-on producer, could you please walk me through, the time script development began until post-production, also principal photography, and how you experienced the administration of filmmaking, so to speak?
Okay, gestation was lengthy, partly because, of course, I had, what I call my day job, which is the acting, and I have two gorgeous children. So I would say it really properly kicked off but when I managed to attach everybody, which we're talking about 2017, 16, 17. And that was when the money started coming together. I always had about 30% or 60%, and then something fell out, and then an actor wasn't free, and of course, director. And again, I feel bad because I was talking about the movie, and I wasn't talking about Paula van der Oost as a director, who, of course, is so important. And, her vision that she brought to the film is what pulled it all together. So what happened was I am sitting, it's 2017, and I'm in, no, just moved, no, it's 2018, beginning of 2018, and I'm in Berlin at the EFM, and my sales agent says to me, okay, director, because I just lost a director who had to go and shoot War of the Worlds. And he said, what about a woman? I said, oh, thank God, because I've been putting women directors in front of you and you've just sort of not been noticing them. And I would really love a woman director. And he said, who do you think? And I said, well, here's my list. Paula van der Oost, I had met about a year before through my casting director. And she was in LA, and we just hit it off, and we had dinners and chatted, and then she ended up staying in my house, became a friend. And I'd asked her to read the script, and she said, I will, but I'm actually quite busy. And then I sent it to her again, and I said, please read this and let me know, because I really think the money's coming together, and this is the cast, and I know you're used to casting yourself and writing your own material, but please just give it a go. And she read it, and she called right back, and she said, actually, I do have a window, and I do love those actors. And I think, the film is certainly, is in my wheelhouse. She'd directed a film called Tonio, which is about the loss of a child. She'd directed Black Butterflies, which was about a poet who was bipolar, so she understood all of everything that we're talking about. And then it came together very, very quickly. At this point, as a producer, I had managed to get the money on board by 4 major investors who provided 30%. Then that meant I could go to the senior lender and get a loan against the tax credits and the pre-sales, which is very important for an independent film. You have to show that you're market ready, and we had pre-sold 13 territories, which is terribly important, which meant that we had 30% of the budget as well from pre-sales to other countries. So that is kind of the rule of thumb, and then you have 10% gap. It's terrifying because I'm signing my life away. There's no big TV company that's, handing me a check. There's no big studio handing me a check. And I had to crew up. I had to be bonded because I was a first-time producer, and of course all independent films need to be bonded, and the bond is very, very strict and very tough, and also gave me a list of people that I could employ for production. So my line producer, and then obviously a co-producer who was going to be the physical producer, whose name was Jason. Paula brought on her partner, Alain de Levita, who is extremely experienced, and the Netherlands Film Fund, which was wonderful. So we were able to get a tax credit with them, and we did the post in Amsterdam. And we were able to bring 5 of Paula's team with her, which was very important, which was Guido de Ganep, Van Ganep, her DOP, her editor, Sander Vos, and script supervisor Harry Aberland, production designer, and first assistant camera. So that was great. And I knew we needed to go to, the locations were incredibly important because they really are like characters in the story as well. The Bay of Silence is in Italy and is a World Heritage Site, and it's in Liguria, and it's about 2 hours from my home in Tuscany. And I knew it well, and I'd read the book actually in the Bay of Silence. And fortunately, I'd met some years previously a young producer who actually was born there. And he said, if you ever make this movie, you have to make it with me because it's my town. And I said I'd be delighted. So I rang him up and I said, Fabio, it's on. And he said, oh, great. When? And I said, July. And he said, oh, no, you can't come in July. It's the season. And I said, I know, but it's only for a week. And it's the only time we can do because the actors are all busy. And I don't know what to do because the bond says if we don't come to you, then we're going to have to try and find it somewhere in England, and it's impossible. Or I'm going to have to come down and do plates, and that's just awful because anyway. So he gripped it by the handles. He said, "Okay, we'll see what we can do." And then we couldn't go to France because we only needed a week, so we went north to Scotland. And we found just wonderful locations up there for Normandy. And so that was our 3 locations. And we had 6 weeks to do the prep. And I was closing finance at the very same time. And it was exhausting and 24 hours a day. But at the same time, I didn't have enough money. And we had a currency shortfall. And they told us we couldn't go to Italy. And I get a call offering me a job to do 6 days during June and the first week of July. And we were actually going to start shooting on the 9th of July to shoot a movie called The Islander in Croatia. And it was only 8 days, but they needed it spreaded across because of their schedule, and mainly weekends. And I said yes, because I thought, oh my God, I can actually go and shoot a film. I can earn some money. I can put it into my budget, which of course is terribly not kosher. Producers aren't supposed to do this sort of thing. But I just thought, how else do I get to Italy? It was just enough money. It was amazing. This has happened all the way through this movie. Just when we needed just a little injection of cash, I get a call. My agent goes, do you fancy doing this? So I don't know many people who work as an actor and are producing a film at the same time, a different film at the same time, but that was me. And so I'd leave on Friday afternoon and I'd shoot Saturday, Sunday when everyone else was having their weekend. And then I'd be back on Monday evening when everyone else is in the office having had their Mondays. And of course I was on the phone all the time. And now, of course, we do everything remotely. So the fact that I thought it was strange that I wasn't sitting in an office doing everything.
Yes.
But it was great. So then I was finally able to, say, look, there you go, and to put that down for Italy. So then production itself, so many stories. I woke up every single morning thinking I was boxing an unknown opponent because so many things happen, so many fires have got to be put out, location changes, weather problems, issues, rewriting scripts. But actually, and extreme heat, believe it or not. Can you believe that we get to London and we have got this garden for this big party? And we've we've found the perfect big back garden, and it goes on forever, and it's beautiful and it's green. And we'd had such extreme heat that we get there and the lawn is yellow. It's like, how's this happened? We're meant to have this sort of, everyone knows that gardens are green in England. It rains all the time. It was like straw. And I remember when we got to post-production and we get to the grade, and I looked at Guido and I said, do you think we could kind of green up the grass a bit? And he looked at me with that sort of disdain that cinematographers often have for stupid people. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, it's just so yellow. He went, oh, for God's sake. So he looked at John Tilburg, his colorist, and he said, what do you reckon, John? And John was very, it's amazing when they do this, it's like on a computer, and, they just kind of outline a whole swathe of things, and then they click a button, and then suddenly everything just looks a different color. Production was 6 weeks. It was at breakneck pace, and so much was going on. And as a producer, it was a huge learning curve for me because, of course, I had help, but I kept, it took a while for me to realize that the buck did stop with me as well. And there wasn't anyone that I could look over my shoulder and say, so what do you reckon? Should we say yes? It was like they were coming up to me saying, so look, do you think we can keep those extras on? And I really, we need an extra day because this scene didn't work. And how are we going to do that? And look, we're running out of time. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. We better keep the extras. And then you realize it's coming out of your contingency, which is basically your pocket. But in for a penny, in for a pound, I slowly just sort of became more just happier and happier. And I would say a huge plus was the fact I'm an actor. So my big thing was I want my actors happy. And I've been on many, many sets where production's a bit of a muddle. The actors get a bit lost. There's not enough time for rehearsal. There's not enough thought going into what the emotional quality of the scene that they have to prepare is, because, you're moving cameras around, you're changing lighting, you're preparing, props for a scene. There's a bit of a hubbub and noise, and the actors are just standing there, putting their fingers in their ears, trying to concentrate. And I do remember being really clear as much as I could about that, and even having a couple of fights with my line producer because, of course, we're shooting in London, which is incredibly expensive. So we found ourselves in West London, Ealing, and trying to find all the locations around there. And we got a cricket club where, all the production buses and utilities were. And that's where they wanted to leave the trailers for the cast. But the house was a 10-minute drive away. And I said, well, where are they going to sit in between scenes? Because they're not going to be driving constantly back down to the cricket pitch to change costume and everything. It's just a waste of time. They might even get down there for lunch. But since the lunch bus is up, why am I spending, so much money on a trailer for a start that they're not going to be using and they can't be comfortable in? We need to bring it up to be close to the house. And they're like, yes, but the parking, and we're never going to get permission. so everything is logistics, and everything is logistics plus. There's always a problem with, well, why can't we move that there? Oh, because we can't store it, or we don't have the permission, or we don't have this, we don't have that. But anyway, we did manage. We got some very nice neighbors who allowed us to park these great big star vehicles, they call them, trailer dressing rooms, into their front yards. And I don't think the actors actually realized how much had gone into making sure that they were comfortable and could just walk straight out and go and prepare and sit somewhere and, be private. But that's something that I've always been very aware of because I am an actor. And British filmmaking, for some reason, tends to be a bit higgledy-piggledy. And everyone on top of each other, and a bit of, yelling and shouting, and it's like, no, let's not do it like that, please. So yeah, there were, and I think I probably put a few people out that way, and there were times, you'd realize someone was stranded, one of the younger actors who, suddenly you said, why are you has no one got you a ride home? Oh, no, it's all right. It's like, why don't you have a ride home? And of course, it wasn't in the budget because it wasn't in their contract, because they weren't, they're only coming in for a day or two. No, that's not okay. So, of course, the Uber account, because you just have to look after people. And it's not, the artists and the crew. In Italy, I remember our grips really weren't happy at all with their accommodation. And they came up to me after the first day. And I said, look, I'm so sorry, but you have to realize we are in a World Heritage Site in the height of the tourist season, and there are just no hotels. And they went, no, don't know, Caroline, it's really not going to fly. I'm not staying there. Because the Italians had put them into La Madonnina, which is basically one of those hostels that's run by nuns. And they are like little rooms that are tiny, and they're actually terribly clean, and they're rather lovely. But the nuns have a curfew of 11 p.m. And so, of course, the grips were not having that, because after they'd wrapped, they were going out, and they're in Italy, and they're going to have a couple of bottles of wine, and they were going to walk around town. And so they had to climb over the wall to get in on their first night. They're thinking, what the hell? So on day 2, when, of course, I'm meant to be doing other things, I'm finding myself driving around in my little Fiat Uno looking for hotels. And thankfully, because I speak Italian, because, I live there, one of the assistants said to me, oh, I've got a friend who's got quite a nice, it's a bit in the hills, but it's really nice. You should check it out. And, 90 euros a night. Because, of course, the other problem is we've got a budget. So I'm driving up the hills and find this lovely place, and they're so nice, and they had 4 spare rooms, and they were all beautiful, and then they had a big terrace, and of course I think it was the World Cup or something, so of course the most important thing was that they were all, they needed television so they could watch the football. So I said to them, okay guys, I found somewhere, take a look, it's certainly better than the nuns. And I tell you, they went up there, and then I ordered a minibus so they could get back, daily. They had the best time. After that, every day it was like, hello, Caroline, what can we do for you? And do you need anything? We're having a lot. And they were just lovely. Spike, he was so great. And, he needed to look after his boys. There were 5 of them, and grips. It's a tough job. They're pushing the camera. They're holding up reflectors.
Yeah.
They're wading into water. We shot in the water, and they're wading into water up to their armpits, doing things. They work really, really hard. And then, of course, we got into the edit, and, Paola then went away to edit for 12 weeks. We're making our notes, and I found that really, really fascinating, and also a bit scary, because movies are written 3 times, or well, they're written many times, but you've got the script, and then of course it's rewritten in production, and then it's rewritten in the edit, and then when you finally decide that you're going to lock your edit, then of course you're going into all that post with sound mixing and ADR and the grade. And I have to say, I just loved that part of it. That was so new to me, and I found it so creatively refreshing as well, seeing the bare bones of a film suddenly live with sound. And sound was incredibly important in this film. And Alex Bowie, our wonderful, sound editor, who had done Girl with a Pearl Earring and is incredibly well known in Holland, has got a really wonderful outfit in Amsterdam, and in that true Dutch tradition, they're all very relaxed, and it's democratic, and everybody has lunch around a very long brown, sort of scrubbed table, and there's, places to play ping pong and all that stuff. And, a great big mixing studio, which is just wonderful. And he also does Foley in a very interesting way. He gets the actors in there at the same time, and everyone is sort of doing the Foley almost together. It's very, very interesting. You have those 2 weeks or so or more, you go back and forwards, and it's refreshing because in a way it's out of your hands and you're just coming in and you're listening and watching, and you're sitting there in the dark and you're steeped in the film. And of course that's the point as a producer and a writer, where you see all the holes and worry endlessly about the end product and will it work. And, also you become incredibly precise because you're looking at scene by scene, reel by reel, and as well when mixing the music as well. And with John Swihart's music, where do we come in? Where do we fade out? Should we just hold a note, isolate it, and take it from one scene to another scene and keep it going so it gives us the continuity of storytelling? And I always find that so fascinating, which is the editing gives you the continuity, but also you do that with sound as well, and also creating texture and creating tension. And there were times when you're thinking the tension is dropping. How do we keep it going? And sometimes it's just one note. And we went back and forwards. I remember on the central sequence where Will discovers, and I'm not doing a spoiler, he discovers his son is dead. And the music for that whole sequence is so important because the sequence actually is terrible, starts. It's sort of like beginning of Act 2, and it starts as he drives to France. And then basically it's a good 20 minutes, really. And there were long conversations about, is this one long sequence, or do we see it, is it sort of in three? How do we tell this story this way, sound-wise? We thought, no, it is an arc that has to go all the way through. So there were, things that John did with the music, that just melodies that would come back again and again, that would help kind of stitch it together, as it were. So it's subliminal.